Hi, I'm Stephanie from Beau Baby Boutique, and I'm going to talk to you today about the differences between being a hobbyist and being a professional in the arts community, and some of the things that are required to transition from being a hobbyist to a professional. So there are two avenues of any participation within the arts, whether that's music, dance, sculpture, painting, sewing, crafting, whatever that might be, singing. There are people who are hobbyists who do it for the enjoyment of it, who it relieves the stress of their day-to-day lives. It makes them feel better about their communities and their world, and there are people who have chosen to do it as their profession. That's how they feed their families. That's the career path that they've chosen. Both avenues are completely valid, and both are very important to the arts. They both offer unique perspective, and they both have things to contribute to the creation of the arts as an overall genre. What I'm here to talk to you today, though, about is when hobbyists attempt to behave as professionals, but haven't done all the work to become a professional. This happens in every level of the arts community. Part of the reason that this happens, and it's a really good reason, is that the arts are accessible to anybody, which is amazing, and we want that. We want anybody to go out and buy pencils and paper and watercolor paints and fabric and musical instruments and all of those things. Those need to be accessible because the arts are so important to our culture and to our day-to-day life. So I encourage people to continue to explore their passions. And sometimes things don't necessarily work out the way they wanted to. They wanted to be a painter, but at the time, painting wasn't a viable career option for them, and so they became an engineer. And so they paint in their spare time, and who knows what that would turn into later in life. What I would like to discuss is the transition from becoming a hobbyist to a professional. Right now, there's a huge surge in the handmade community, which is amazing. It is incredible to see people taking ownership of the things that they make for themselves and their friends and their families. It's important to support local. It's important to contribute to that level of creativity within our communities. That's how we combat things that are maybe not so positive in our world, is by supporting community and art at the grassroots level. Where that becomes problematic, though, is when hobbyists undercut professionals, or they don't do the work that is needed to become a professional. That type of work usually looks like certifications, licensing, making sure that they're meeting safety guidelines, best practices, as well as following industry standards for pricing. So, for example, if somebody decides, I can make a bib for 50 cents. I don't know how they could, because I wish I could, but I can't. But say they can. And they decide to sell that bib for $4 because they feel that that is an appropriate price for that. However, the industry standard in the arts community is $8 or $10 for that bib. What that person, they don't have a license, they don't do it full time. It's just to buy themselves some shoes, those sorts of things, or to maybe pay for their fabric habit, which I know a lot of us have. But they're undercutting the people that are paying several hundreds of dollars a year in licensing and taxes, that pay to be incorporated, that pay to have labeling and tagging and meet all of these various guidelines, who have done their research to be a proper business and to sell things in a proper way. And that can be somewhat problematic, and that's where you tend to get some friction. If you want to be a professional and you're a hobbyist, that's amazing. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears ahead of you, and I fully encourage you to do all of the work that you need to do to become that professional. It's a very rewarding career, but it's also very challenging. Oftentimes I'm up till 1 or 2 in the morning sewing. As soon as my son goes to bed, people ask me, when do you sleep? Well, I don't really. I will eventually, but for right now, I'm building my business. I have emails to respond to. I have orders that need to be done in a timely manner, and that's people's expectations. I can't take 3 to 6 weeks for every order, or I would never be successful with my business. So I'll give you another example of some of the things that are involved with becoming a professional. Oftentimes I will get emails from people. It's very flattering. They ask me, where do I get my fabrics? How do I do what I do? Give me your name of your suppliers, those sorts of things. And unfortunately, that is all proprietary information, and it's not stuff that I'm willing to share. The reason being is that I've worked really, really hard to find fabrics and designs that are fitting towards my brand and that I feel my customers want, and that are different than what is or isn't necessarily out there right now. And I'm not willing to share that for free. This is my career. This is my livelihood. This is how I feed my son. And it would be very challenging to set myself apart if I just gave all of my trade secrets away. On the other hand, too, even if I did give my suppliers, it would actually cost someone more to purchase fabric from where I purchased than to actually buy an item from me, which is typically how it works. There are all those memes and jokes about, saw a thing on Pinterest for $14, went and spent $80 on craft supplies. That's typically the case. I buy in volume, and I ship in volume, and I purchase continually. So if you do want to be a professional and you are currently a hobbyist, regardless of what field or faculty that speaks to you, I encourage you to do the work. If you see someone who has a really good idea and you want to make a little bit of extra cash, it's probably better if you just make it for yourself and maybe some gifts for friends if that's your interest. If you're interested in putting in the blood, sweat, and tears that are required to actually be a professional within the arts community, then I fully encourage you to seek out guilds and organizations within your area and find out what it takes to actually do what the people do around you, because the reason they make it look so easy is because they've worked so hard. So thank you so much for your time, and hopefully this is the first of many video blogs. Thanks.